Let's go to the Thursday night game between the Bears and the Commanders. This one, Justin Fields throwing the ball all over the yard. Obviously, not all over the yard is probably wrong because he threw for 282 and DJ Moore had 230 of it. A lot of that after the catch. Just a huge game for DJ Moore as the Bears picked on Khalil Herbert. First and foremost, Tom, I got to ask you, are you feeling any better about Justin Fields? 2 weeks ago, we wrote his tombstone, and I still feel like maybe I shouldn't continue carving it, but I still have it in a prominent place on my desk. But it does look like there is something here, Tom, that we had never seen before from Fields, and they've responded to some level of adversity here.
Yeah, I think this, I'll buy into this, even if he's, maybe if somebody's even looking to sell him a little high off of this, I'll be buying here. The schedule upcoming is, we got the Vikings, Raiders, and Chargers the next 3 weeks. 3 awesome matchups after playing the Commanders last week. And what the coaching staff has done, the more design runs the last 2 weeks and play action off those design runs. So the formula, they're going back to the formula that was pretty successful at the end of last year. And he's found DJ Moore. It's interesting. Looking into our fantasy points data, DJ Moore, only wide receiver who has a perfect quarterback rating with his quarterback right now. It's
wow.
Incredible.
It's absurd. Dude, they're like 27 of 32 for like 500 yards. It's insane. I mean, it's and really then good. All other Bears receivers are just dust.
But Cole Kmet. I wrote up Cole Kmet too.
Kmet,
he's a legit top 5 tight end right now. It's this offense is kind of funneling through those two, and of course the big injury coming out of that game was Khalil Herbert. They were down to Kari Blasingame running the ball against the Commanders at the end of that game. So looks like he's going to miss a couple of weeks here with a high ankle sprain. So it's probably going to be Roschon Johnson time, but he's got a clear concussion protocol. So it might also be Deontay Foreman time. So
oh boy, we get Foreman coming off a healthy scratch. I will say Roschon has the extra time coming off Thursday. I'm with you, Tom. I'm buying a little bit of Fields Flames here. I mean, obviously worst possible start, but this kind of mirrors last year. I mean, they got off to an atrocious start last year too, and then they started picking it up. Obviously 4 touchdowns in back-to-back games that won't repeat, but the confidence is back from Fields as a passer. Obviously he's just smashed in 2 layup matchups, but Joe, I mean, we say this all the time on this show and just in our analysis, like when guys smash in layup matchups like this one, or back-to-back, like we have to give them credit. And
what do you want him to do? Like suck? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In Fields' case, he's done exactly what we want him to. He's QB1 2 weeks ago. He's probably going to be, what is he right now? QB2 or QB3. So yeah, wheels up on Fields. And, for DJ Moore, man, I mean, it's just, there's going to be weeks where he catches 3 balls for 30 because Fields, has a bad game. But I mean, you just keep playing him.
You had the ceiling is way too high. Let's go over to the Commanders where, Andy Reid was so proud of Eric Bieniemy in this game. I think it was Nathan Yonke from Pro Football Focus who tweeted out that the Commanders in the Pro Football Focus era are the only team to drop back 55 consecutive times without a designed run in the Pro Football Focus era. Andy Reid with a "well done, my son" to Eric Bieniemy. That sounds like old Donovan McNabb Eagles right there, man. Like
I bet Brian Robinson over 15 and a half carries in that game. I'm still waiting I'll be waiting like weeks for him to get another carry at this pace.
And I mean, like Sam Howell is the worst quarterback per fantasy points data this year in terms of taking sacks that were his fault. And dropping him back 55 times is a disaster. Nonetheless, if you started Sam Howell, you're happy. He gave you 31 fantasy points. Logan Thomas is a tight end. We're looking for these tight ends. You talked about Cole Kmet's a top 5 tight end. Logan Thomas, I mean, for as long as he can stay out there, and that's obviously a big question for him. But man, McLaurin, 51 pass attempts for Sam Howell. McLaurin has 5 targets. Dotson has 5 targets. Meanwhile, Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel, and Antonio Gibson all have more targets than that. I don't know what to say. But Logan Thomas is certainly somebody who should be rostered. Tom, in our auction league, I picked him up and started him against, literally, I think I picked him up 40 minutes before the game and started him against our boy Moyer, and I can't imagine Moyer was very happy about that.
A lot of people probably did it. I mean, he was kind of a popular ad last week just because, bye weeks were finally setting in, and, he's been kind of active through the first couple of weeks when he's been available. So yeah, he's at the top of the waiver wire. Curtis Samuel is, he's got to be in consideration too. That's, we're playing with basically a rookie quarterback, and it's kind of showing.
Yeah.
He's everything is funneling towards the middle of the field. These closer targets. He's kind of petrified to throw it outside the numbers, and it's killing Jahan Dotson. He's droppable at this point. I would probably maybe hang on to him for another week or two, unless you're, in a 10-team league. Bye weeks are coming up, but he's kind of killing McLaurin and Dotson right now. It's just not enough passes outside the numbers to these guys. And even like the big McLaurin catch was on a deep crosser, over the middle. Everything seems to be funneling to these guys that are in the middle of the field right now.
Yeah. Let's move to the Jacksonville Buffalo London game. This one was actually entertaining. I got to be honest, man. Like, I hope they had an adequate grounds crew to clean up all the flags that were thrown on the field in that game. What a joke. Of course, there's some legitimate flags, but there were some ticky-tack calls in that game. Nonetheless, the Jaguars come out with a huge win, and we get a big game for the Jaguars. You want to have a big game. Trevor Lawrence throws for 315, runs for 31. ETN has a monstrous day. Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk lead them in targets and receiving. Evan Ingram has 8 targets. And the news here, if you have Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, it seems, might have aggravated that knee injury. He actually was on the receiving end, Graham, of Trevor Lawrence's touchdown, but he might have aggravated that knee injury that's kept him out here a little bit. And it seems like Ridley and Kirk are going to have the same opportunity here to be kind of big-time fantasy assets.
Yes, they will be. Yeah. Christian Kirk after week 1 has just come screaming back. Looking into the data, first 4 weeks, him and Ridley were splitting the first read targets. That continued here in week 5. They both had great game against the Bills. I think we're all kind of on this, no Tre'Davious White for the Bills secondary. Then they sustained a couple more injuries in the game, specifically to Matt Milano. So really good spot. I'm going to write up Trevor Lawrence as like a slight upgrade. He could have had an even bigger game here, guys, watching the game. They had some more red zone miscues. He had a couple fumbles that killed drives, but to still toss for, well over 300 yards against a good defense. The big games are coming here for Lawrence. And, like you mentioned, this is going to be a really condensed passing offense, continue to be a condensed passing offense with Ridley and Kirk and Ingram. We're talking about tight ends on this podcast. Ingram gets 8 targets, just goes 4 for 28. But he is one of the few guys every single week where we're, consistently getting 8 targets. So don't be too concerned about Ingram moving forward.
He just can't score a damn touchdown. He drops.
Nobody can, Tom, besides Zay Jones.
Yeah, that's always been his issue. He just can't score touchdowns, but he's getting the targets, and he just drops that one in this game and ruins one of his few opportunities to score a touchdown.
Lawrence was just like a quarter of a second late on that throw. Yeah. It was a perfectly designed play, but the defender, got right back up to Ingram on that one. But yeah.
Let's go to the Bills side. Talk about not running the football. They did nothing of it. They handed the ball off 10 times. James Cook had -4 yards. This was a classic Bills under Josh Allen
James
game.
Cook right now, Joe. This usage is, we're just getting Latavius Murray, Damian. I was getting questions about trading James Cook for Calvin. Trading Calvin Ridley for James Cook last week. It's like, no, we're sticking with Calvin Ridley. He still has potential to be a wide receiver, at least a top 15, top 20 wide receiver. James Cook, he got kind of lucky last week. Latavius Murray couldn't finish off a drive. He actually got a goal line carry last week, scored his touchdown, but this usage is a little frightening. And if they can't get the run game going like they did this week, I just don't know what he's going to contribute week to week. It's a little scary with him.
Yeah.
I will say the game script. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I said obviously still a flex option right now, RB2, but yeah, you're right, Graham. They were down 11-0 essentially in the blink.
And that's the problem. Like, you would think he's a passing back, but they're playing Latavius Murray over him in passing.
Yeah,
situations.
I think some of that's just pass protection. Murray's not really getting the ball, but I'm not too concerned. Bills are going to play with a lot of good game script this year, and this is just one of those games where they did that first half was so sluggish. I don't think they went 3 and out on their first 2 drives. I think they were just they struggled.
Just play Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis's ceiling is just too high to sit.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, should we upgrade Gabe? That was the one question I have in this game.
Especially if they're not going to run the ball, man. Like, I mean, look, and
these tight ends are doing nothing.
Yeah, didn't Kincaid get dinged up in that game?
No,
nothing.
he had a catch late, but he's just not involved. It's super bizarre. I mean, they both got 8 targets, Knox and Kincaid. But let's upgrade Gabe. I mean, he's having such a good year here, man. The touchdowns are going to run out, but he's clearly healthy.
Are they?
Allen, what's that?
Are they?
They might not run out.
They might. I mean, he's got.
we were drafting
he's not
him
going
as
to score in every game, but yeah,
we were drafting him as a 4th round pick last year because we're like, he's going to score 10 touchdowns, and then he got hurt, and like this actually feels like one of those ones where we were right last year. He got hurt early.
That touchdown this week was phenomenal too. It was complete trust.
Dude,
Josh Allen. Yeah, I mean
he scored 2.
That one where he threw it, and he had that man coverage on, and he just put it on his, right on his hip, and it was just well done by Josh Allen, and just a great combo there.
Houston and Atlanta. Atlanta wins 21-19. Atlanta gets it done again. And hey, look, guys, Desmond Ridder throws for 329. Okay, so the Tom, our boy TC, is gonna have to calm down on Ridder a little bit this week.
He's not the worst NFL quarterback right now.
No, I saw quite a few worse this week. Ridder throws for 329, and guys, he throws for 329, and look who's the leading receivers. Kyle Pitts, 7 for 87. Drake London, 6 for 78. Meanwhile, Bijan Robinson scores the butt catch. He caught it with his butt cheek. Did you see that?
That was epic.
His touchdown, Tom, did you see it?
I did not.
Oh, okay. So you must have been running. So what happened was it was a little like a middle screen or a shovel pass. And
okay, I did see that. Where it looked like it almost looked like it was behind his back. Like
it was behind him.
I was a little confused.
It was behind him. Ridder threw it behind him. Bijan caught it with his left hand and pinned it to his butt cheek, and then ran into the end zone.
It looked like he was going to do some do some around the head,
Yeah. So that was
guy's pretty talented.
I mean,
okay.
This is why I was telling people you just can't drop Kyle Pitts. Like, not that this was a huge game or anything, but the question I had was, who are you dropping him for? Every week I've made the wrong decision. I sat him for Hunter Henry this week, and Hunter Henry's got a goose egg, and we will get to that game. But I do believe there was some video going around, and I honestly find it compelling. Kyle Pitts just not moving at full speed, but maybe this was a step in the right direction, Graham.
Yeah, I think it was. And for the Falcons, just pass game in general, like, wow, good things happen when you throw it to your good players. It's like we're watching the Chicago game the last 3 weeks. They're finally throwing to DJ Moore this past week. Pitts 11 targets, London got 9. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that, these guys are like, got to automatically reinsert them into lineups. I want to see more from Ridder over, a couple games span here. We were coming into this game thinking, man, like Falcons might go to Heineke here. The good news is they got the Commanders coming up, and the Commanders defense has just gotten blown up for 4 straight games, giving up 30 points in 4 straight games here. So we'll get a nice little test here, see what we're going to get from Ridder, see if this is just a one game, good matchup. But I got to say, good spot again against Washington. I think it's worthy of a little bit of an upgrade for London and Pitts, but again, I'm not sold here.
Did you guys see the Josh Norris? I think tweeted it out yesterday. All of like his route, Kyle Pitts' route tree from yesterday. It was basically all left breaking routes. Probably to compensate for that knee. So it's something.
Yeah, Josh
defenses
was
will
on
catch
this.
onto that. Yeah. Josh was tweeting this out a couple weeks ago. He ran a deep crosshair where Ridder missed him. I think it was in the Lions game, and Ridder missed him, and he just could not. It was so clear, like he could not get up to full speed. So it's something to watch. They clearly are like, all right, if he can break to the left, he probably has a little more juice than breaking to the right. So whoever writes up this game, you might want to check that out. The next gen. Breakdown. So essentially he can't push off his left leg. He can push off the right leg. He can get to the
interesting.
Left. It was interesting. Yeah, it's very clear. You're going to look at it and it's going to be like, wow, holy shit! Yeah. Everyone is to the left. Even when he starts to the right of the formation, it's all breaking into the middle of the field. If he's on the left side of the formation, it's all breaking towards the sideline. I'm interested to see on the Texans side how our guys chart. My guess is, just looking the numbers,
CJ Stroud throws 35 passes, only 3 to Nico Collins. My guess is AJ Terrell followed him, at least selectively. And Tank Dell left this game with concussion, so that's something we need to monitor. But I guess the story of the podcast so far is tight ends who are now all of a sudden usable for fantasy. Dalton Schultz, his role had been increasing. He gets 10 targets in this one, including a touchdown.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was, aided by Tank Dell. That was I believe he went out in the second quarter of that game, so that certainly helped. He's still he's right around 60% of the snaps. It's a little thin for what you want from your tight end, but what we're getting at the position right now, we'll take it. It's been kind of gradually growing here. Maybe they're getting some chemistry between these two guys, but we're expecting, these guys just can't get through concussion protocol in a week. This season with the new standards. So we're expecting Tank Dell to miss this week. So probably Robert Woods and Dalton Schultz will have to be featured a little bit more, but Nico Collins might go for 200 plus yards against the Commanders this week. Just keep the trend going after AJ Brown and DJ Moore did it.
Let's go to the Lions and the Panthers, T-Bro. The Lions take on, excuse me, Tom, you confused me a little bit. The Texans take on the Saints this week.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was thinking of the Falcons.
The Commanders taking the Falcons. Yep. I was like, wait a minute. What am I thinking? Did my signals get crossed? No. We'll don't worry. We'll talk about that on the waiver wire and in our content later this week. Let's go to the Panthers and the Lions. The Lions, David Montgomery continues to do it again. At this rate, Jahmyr Gibbs might never touch football. Jahmyr Gibbs obviously misses this game with a hamstring. Amon-Ra misses it with a groin injury, which I hope is not a sports hernia. But they just keep going. Do the Lions. Goff is playing out of his mind. The play calling's good. The Panthers defense, I've written this up in the mismatch report. Their pressure rate over expectation is the lowest in the NFL. So Jared Goff was doing his taxes back there, and he's thrown to this hodgepodge group of receivers. I don't know what else to say at this point, guys, about the Lions. I mean, Sam Laporta, you start him. If Amon-Ra doesn't play, I would think they're going to get Jameson Williams more involved going forward. But Tom, what do you even say about this Lions offense?
Yeah, it's just, we'll see. Jameson Williams was the big question coming into the week, and Amon-Ra doesn't play, so some people were excited that he might have a bigger role. He actually played, ran 15 routes out of 30 here. Looking at PFF here, 28 of 60 snaps as well. So his role was actually a little healthier than anticipated, and it was even a blowout. So I think it was it Pelissero before the game, 20 snaps maybe. So the fact that it was a blowout and he still played, more snaps than anticipated is probably a good sign. We can certainly maybe write him up as a player to watch here, but it was a tough spot. He's been basically away from the team, not practicing for the last 7 weeks. Had the hamstring injury in mid-August and had to be away from the facility for the last 4 weeks. So, of course, he's going to be a little bit behind, and I would not be dropping him right now. I mean, I saw it last week on the waiver wire. Quentin Johnston, people were just absolutely, it did nothing. I'm dropping him. So if Jameson Williams gets dropped this week, I would be first in line to pick him up. They're going to give him more opportunities going forward. I guess the concern would be, though, that Josh Reynolds is playing pretty damn good. Could eat into his production a little bit, and Sam Laporta, just fire him up. He's a top 3 tight end right now with TJ Hawkinson and Travis Kelce when they're healthy.
On the flip side, if the Panthers, at the very least, the Panthers got you garbage time here. I mean, I don't know what else to say about the Panthers. Miles Sanders lost another fumble. He had 1 target. I mean, he's dealing with a groin injury. But at the very least, man, Graham Thielen's in every week wide receiver 3 at this point.
Wide receiver 3?
He might be wide receiver 2.
Yeah,
he's like a back end 1 right now. I don't think it's gonna last. I think we're eventually gonna get one of these, Mingo and Chark to pop, but Bryce Young just continues to not throw deep. So the entire offense, funnels through Adam Thielen. He's just absolutely dominating targets. 9, 14, 8, and 13. I mean, if I
start him,
guys, I did not think this was in the range of outcomes for Adam Thielen this season. And he's, to the point where he's dominating targets where, Mingo and Chark are just completely irrelevant in this offense, and, they don't throw deep. So it's all Thielen. How about Laviska Shenault mixing in for 5 carries too? Panthers are just grasping at straws for their run game at this point. I mean, Chuba and Miles are just not getting it done. But yeah, Thielen for right now, man, he's like the only piece of this offense that you can really play.
And Tennessee and Indianapolis, Indy wins this one 23-16, but obviously the big news is Anthony Richardson going down. And look, here's the problem, guys. Let's talk facts, Graham. Anthony Richardson's played 4 games in the NFL. He's missed one, and in 3 of the others, he's left with an injury. And that's not a good start to his career, especially for a guy who's been playing pretty well. But I think we're bracing for a semi-extended absence for Anthony Richardson right now. I think I saw maybe a 4 to 6 week window. They're obviously not going to rush him back because Gardner Minshew can keep this offense on track. But what was looking like a special fantasy quarterback might not happen this year.
I know, man. It's such a bummer. I mean, we were all such massive Richardson fans. Yeah, our guy Edwin Porras was in our Discord a couple hours ago saying that it's going to probably be 4 to 6 weeks. Grade 3 injury. He's seeking a second opinion, which is usually never a good sign. You know, just kind of like making sure it's the right diagnosis on the first try. Yeah, there's a real chance we don't see Richardson for quite some time here. And it sucks. I mean, Minshew is, a really good backup. And I mean, I guess we could, talk through how this offense will look different, with Minshew versus Richardson. Minshew's been pretty solid for Pittman and Josh Downs. So, maybe we can upgrade the receivers a little here, but curious for your guys' thoughts on like this run game. I mean, Zach Moss is awesome. Like he's playing really, really well. Like I know they gave Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, they gave Jonathan Taylor the big extension. What do we think about this backfield? Because, the 4 games prior to JT, coming back to the team, I mean, it was all Zach Moss, obviously, huge bell cow role. Do we think this is going to be some sort of split? I think that's kind of the big question here with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least for the next couple, like the next month, clearly they played him 10 snaps, Taylor to 53 for Moss last week. They're easing him into the plan. I don't blame him. I mean, Zach Moss is playing at a really high level.
Yeah.
It's going to be a frustrating. I mean, I sat Zach Moss in a bunch of spots. Just it wasn't because I didn't think he wasn't going to play enough. It was a combination of that and a very tough matchup against the Titans. But absolutely just carved him up. The long touchdown run from 56 yards out. People, we were drafting Taylor high second round even before we knew about this contract stuff, but now he sat out for the first 4 weeks and they kind of found a little gem here in Zach Moss. So and they just gave him that big contract. This is a team that's looking down the road a couple years from now when Anthony Richardson is a couple more years, season. So they're, if they don't have to put a bunch of, wear down him, wear out the tread here this season, hey, we can give Zach Moss a little bit of work here on the side. And Joe, Shane Steichen, I saw last year that he was willing to spread it around.
Oh, for sure. And here's the other thing that I thought about when watching this game. I wonder if they came in saying, hey, we'll go with the flow. If Taylor is clearly more effective, he's going to get a little bit more run. And then in this game, they were like, there was no reason to give Taylor more run in this game. And I thought it was my observation about this was, we're in all the hand wringing over running back contracts, of which I partook in because I don't think it's necessarily fair to how running backs are used. Maybe this was what we were asking for. Maybe the Colts paid Taylor for his pass production and they're just like, thanks for those big years, dude. But now Zach Moss is our guy. I think it'll change a little bit going forward, but I would anticipate Zach Moss is going to have an opportunity here to be the lead back, at least for the time being. Flipping over to Tennessee, there's only one thing I want to talk about here, and it's Tyjae Spears. I think we got a lot of questions about him. I know you guys got him on the on the morning show.
There were some people really struggling.
And we'd said Tyjae in a lot of them, Tom.
Yeah, it was not a lot of great options. So
and I know I answered a couple where I'm playing Tyjae Spears in that spot. He is like the definition of a bye week flex right now. He's got some juice to him. He plays in the passing game. He looks really good. It looks like they actually, for the first time, have a viable complement to Derrick Henry.
They do. Tyjae is really good, man. I thought he was the second, in terms of talent, he was the second best player in this draft class behind Bijan. It's just the question of whether or not he could stay healthy, and he's more than stayed healthy. The Titans they've been looking for a back to kind of complement Henry for years, and Spears is the perfect option. Last couple of weeks in start sit, I've just been writing it up as saying, hey, like, you're starting Derrick Henry, but you've got to realize that the floor is lower than ever now because Tajay is good. He's playing on passing downs, and once again, Tajay got 5 targets in this game. Henry did get a few designed looks again, which is nice for him to get a couple balls in the week where he's not stiff arming defenders into oblivion. But hey, I mean, I think this is what we've got to come to expect here. I mean, this is a split backfield. Spears has a legitimate role, and Henry's floor is definitely lower. And the weeks where he's not scoring touchdowns, it's probably going to be pretty low end output for fantasy this season.
And this was a week where the Titans were expected to win. They were favored, but we're seeing in these like negative game scripts that Spears has a little more juice too. And this is a Titans team that isn't like teams from the past here for the Titans that were favored in a bunch of games and the best team in the AFC South. So he's going to be relevant more often than not with the Titans, but likely to be underdogs in most games going forward, and
they will
potentially playing in negative game scripts.
Yeah, Tom, this will probably be the last time the Titans are favored for a long time, right? Like,
I don't know. I was surprised they were favored in this game, so I never know with Vegas. But yeah, that was. I don't know their upcoming schedule. I know they're 4-point underdogs against the Ravens in London this week. So maybe it's going to be another Spears week where you can use them as a flex with 2 teams on bye.
Miami and the Giants. Miami wins this one 31-16. There's not much for us to say about Miami at this point. You start
or New York.
No, yeah.
Nope.
I want no questions on Achane. You have to start him. You could start Mostert. Jeff Wilson was not back in this game. McDaniel, if he takes touches away from Achane, which he will not, by the way, because he's not a donkey, that would be foolish. He's so I want to talk about the radio call because we get live audio for the SiriusXM Game Day show. Okay. We had the Dolphins game up, and on Achane's long touchdown, the play-by-play guys go like, and 2 was back, and he hands to Achane, and immediately the color guy goes, oh, he might be gone. Like, he saw immediately like that it was going to be a touchdown. It was one of the funniest things I've heard, and he was gone. He's just too explosive. Saw Cedric Wilson getting some blow in this game, the 4 for 52, but I mean, you start him. Here's the secret to beating Miami. You have to make Tua go through his progressions. We've seen this at Fantasy Points. Tua's amazing on his first reads, and anything beyond that, not so hot. And the Giants got him to throw a couple of picks, but early in the down, Tua was carving them up. And for the Giants, Daniel Jones, guys, neck injury. And I don't know if you remember, he said, this is from Pat Leonard of the New York Daily News. He said, it's similar to the pain he felt in 2021. He missed the final 6 games of that season with a neck injury. I would anticipate Daniel Jones missing some time. Tyrod's obviously a good backup, but this offense is garbage. Hot freaking garbage. But in the theme of the podcast, Darren Waller got going in this one, Graham.
Yeah, a little squeaky wheel. I mean, we kind of expected a little bit after last week's pretty much no show. He was a complete ghost for the entire game. Got 11 targets, 8 for 86. I've been writing it up just saying, do you really have better options? Do you really, really want to start Luke Musgrave over Darren Waller? I think that's kind of where we're at with this offense. It's just, you just keep playing them. It's going to be gross. With Tyrod, we'll get Saquon back probably this week, but
will we? I hope. This offense needs.
Who do they even play this week?
They're playing Buffalo on Monday Night Football.
They play Buffalo.
An angry Bills team.
Daboll's been doing the old Belichick with Barkley the last couple weeks, doing the limited practice where he puts his pads on.
By the way,
on the field. So,
Tom, I'm sure you saw the early line.
Oh, it's 14.5. Yeah, it's moving.
It's insane. Yeah, I think it's already 15 now.
Can we start the flexes in week 6, NBC? Can we do it now?
Get the Giants out of freaking prime time, for the love of God. I'm tired of this crap. I'd rather watch the Jets at this point. At least the Jets.
Yeah, no, you never know what Zach Wilson's going to do. That's at least entertaining.
Oh God.
Brees Hall's on that team.
Let's move forward to another game. Let's go to the Saints and the Patriots. Oh God. No. I mean, so speaking of broken offenses, Tom, how bad does Mac Jones look to you?
I mean, he's terrible right now, but they've also done him no favors.
By the way, they put in Zappy and he goes 3 of 9.
They have no team speed on this. They got Devontae Parker,
that last
number
pick,
1 wide receiver.
Did you guys see who he's throwing to on that last pick? It's Ty Montgomery.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah, they're trying to
throwing
do some
Ty Montgomery crossers. I mean,
it's Smith-Schuster and
Doo-doo,
Smith-Schuster and Demario Douglas. I think we're banged up, but still, this is
but come on.
this is what their off-season moves. Let's go get Devontae Parker last year. Let's go get Juju Smith-Schuster. Let's go get Zeke. Like guys that can't move anymore. I mean, there's just zero team speed on this, and I mean, Mac is certainly playing poorly, but I mean, he's been put in kind of an impossible situation. If your receivers can't create separation and windows for you, and that's just a mess all around.
Kind of quarterback he is, like doo-doo shit poopster. That's he is. How obviously bad was that signing when they did it?
Literally all of us were like, why don't you just keep Jacoby?
It was the same contract
too. That was literally the same exact contract. Insane.
I mean, not that this offense would be that much better with Jacoby Myers, because he's not the kind
he's
of
a professional wide receiver. They don't have any professional wide receivers.
We're seeing like he was getting open for him and helping them move the ball last year. Like this is, I mean, Hunter Henry is the focal point of this passing game right now.
He had a goose egg.
I know.
By the way,
and he did nothing, and they scored 0 points.
This to that point, this is the third straight game where the Patriots have had 8 different receivers between 3 and 5 targets, or 2 and 5 targets. I mean,
the carries are split 50-50 between Ramondre and
that's
Zeke
what
too.
I wanted to ask you guys about Ramondre, man. I mean, I think it's kind of
the offense is so bad, man. They're not even checking it down to him. I mean, he's benchable. Like, I love Ramondre, but he's benchable. Like, totally.
They're not going to get near the goal line either to score touchdowns.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, coming into this game, Ramondre had 1 carry inside the 10. Yeah. I mean, when's the next time he's going to get
probably
goal line carry?
Other plays inside the 10
too. I was going to say they haven't had very many to begin with. So yeah,
it was looking kind of promising in week 1 too, because Mac Jones, and then it's really just the Eagles had a banged up secondary and they were learning under a new defensive coordinator, and now everything's dead for them. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
Oh God. Anyway, I'm done with the Patriots. You know how things are bad for an NFL team when I'm like, who the Patriots could use? Nelson Aguilar. Seriously,
he really would be their best receiver, honestly. Right now,
he has speed
and he gives athleticism.
Yeah. On the Saints side, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, guys, we need to watch him. He hurt his toe in pregame warmups, and Dennis Allen said he made it through without incident, but you know how those things can get over the week. Kamara's a bell cow. Kendre Miller, I would caution everybody going to look at this and say, oh, Kendre Miller had 16 touches. I think 10 of them came in the fourth quarter with the game out of reach. So they took Kamara out of this game. Derek Carr was a little better, but Chris Olave is the big one, Tom. Got to watch his status.
Yeah, I was writing up the waiver wire. It's incredible how many the Saints just cannot get into any kind of shootout here. Their first 5 games have all finished with 37 or fewer points. I mean, I think this offense has the potential for some fireworks, but they just cannot get into a game that has any kind of flow or any kind of production. So a tough one. At least Olave scored the touchdown, but we'll see about this foot issue. Maybe Rashid Shaheed gets a little upgrade if Olave has to miss time, or but yeah, this is kind of tough right now. This passing game, they just didn't have to do anything. They just turtled on the ball. They knew the Patriots weren't a threat for anything. It wasn't like Kamara was carving them up on the ground. They just were running it right into the into the line.
They averaged
get their 3 or 4 yards and like, all right, we'll punt if we can't score.
They averaged 4.3 yards per play by design in this game. Yeah, because they knew that was going to be enough to beat the Patriots. Like and I don't blame
them. That's the takeaway. Yeah, that's the takeaway is like these teams. Anybody that's playing the Patriots, I think we've just got to kind of consider that game sort of dead for fantasy. Like if we're expecting a shootout, just throw that in the bin against the Patriots.
And the Patriots have had a couple of those games so far this year. I think I was looking at their upcoming schedule. They got some potential shootout spots. So like
that's what I was just looking at.
I wish Olave wasn't hurt, because I think there's. I would be buying low on these Saints receivers. I think they'll start playing in some higher scoring games, and these Carr will start to rack up some passing yards, and these receivers will start to take off a little bit.
Oh, and by the way, keep in mind the Patriots lost arguably their 2 best defensive players to injury this last week. So that obviously, and if they're not going to be able to stop anybody, then for sure that these game scripts are coming. Baltimore and Pittsburgh, Tom, 17-10, and the story of this game,
domination.
Yeah, oh yeah. I want everybody to check this out. After the game, they asked Mike Tomlin about the touchdown pass from Kenny Pickett to George Pickens, which I think all of us would agree, even those of us who have been criticizing Kenny Pickett would agree was a great throw by Kenny Pickett and a great decision. Tomlin said, well, obviously we're trying to do some things, but I don't think that was our intention on that play or something. And then it cuts, Tom. At the same time, I noticed this while watching the game on my televisions here without the sound on because I'm doing the game day show. And I see Matt Canada is just nonplussed. The entire Steelers coaching booth is going nuts because they just scored a go-ahead touchdown. And Matt Canada's just sitting there like. So I think the context clues were Matt Canada and Mike Tomlin were playing for a field goal, and Kenny Pickett said, I have single coverage to George Pickens, who's been dominating.
Cover
in this
zero.
Game.
Yep.
I'm throwing the ball to George Pickens, and that was not the play call. And that is going to open up a whole lot of bye week controversy, T-Bro, on Steelers Reddit and Steelers Twitter.
Hey, let's go. Let's go. Kenny Pickett, go rogue. Let's the rest of the season, let's not follow any of Matt Canada's calls. Let's go back to the Ben Roethlisberger offense where, he's just calling every play at the line of scrimmage. And hey, it worked. I mean, they were settling they were at the 40-yard line or wherever it was. It was a 41-yard touchdown.
Oh,
so there was no guarantee. They ran it into the line with Najee, right? The typical Najee run that gets stuffed right at the line of scrimmage. So go for
right before that touchdown pass, the broadcast showed a picture of the flags just whipping around at Heinz Field. We know it was a windy game.
I think it was into the open end zone as well. So that's always the tougher one to kick in.
Boswell's got a 54-yarder to win the game. No, I love what Kenny Pickett did. And Kenny Pickett's an outsized confidence guy, I think. But maybe that's him just saying, hey, guys, look, something's not working here. Well, good for him if that was the case.
I'm an NFL quarterback. If I see one-on-one opportunity with the guy that's balling at the end of that.
He was cooking Marlon Humphrey. Pickens was cooking Humphrey.
Just owning him at the end of that game. So, hey, let's feed the guy that's real hot right now. And hey, it worked out. So, they go into bye this week. I guess we'll be watching Deontay Johnson. We don't have to do it this week. We can do it next week, but they really need Deontay Johnson back in this lineup. I think that's been kind of under talked about. Just he bails them out in so many situations whenever this offense is just can't get going. It's stagnant, and he's the guy that picks up first downs and gets this offense moving a little bit. So I think he's first eligible to come off in week 7. That was a pretty severe hamstring injury he suffered in week 1, though. So no guarantee that he's back.
The only surprising thing about Allen Robinson's season so far is that the Patriots didn't sign him.
He'd be perfect.
He's perfect. Oh my God, that's what they need. Another slow moving slot receiver.
nine targets for 29 yards. On Baltimore's side, the wide receivers must have something against.
Oh my gosh!
Against
it was bad.
Jackson.
It was bad, dude. Flowers had a huge drop.
Aguilar with that was a beautiful ball.
That was a touchdown.
It was a touchdown.
Rashad Bateman dropped the touchdown. Rashad Bateman. I hate when I read quotes after a game, and obviously there's a broken player, and Rashad Bateman's he deleted his Twitter. He's like, I did put this game on me. It's almost like, unfortunately, a broken player who it's looking like they missed on that pick, and injuries might be a problem with it. But I don't know if I'm going to overreact to this game, guys, because the Ravens and the Steelers always do some sloppy shit, man. They gotta, these games are always nasty. But Lamar played better than the numbers indicate, Graham.
Way better. He should have 300 yards in this game. He should have 2 more touchdowns. That, the pick at the end of the game was obviously a really bad decision and throw by Lamar, but that was arguably one of the only bad throws he had in this game. We're not too concerned about Lamar. Moving forward, though, this run game I think is just kind of useless for fantasy. Or Justice Hill rips off 14-yard long touchdown, air quotes, long. But Gus gets the 12 carries here. I mean, we can't use these dudes. So
Justice Hill though at least contributes in the passing game. My wife started Justice Hill in a flex spot. Like he's almost like kind of like lowercase Tajay Spears. Like he's a bye week flex.
Really lowercase, but
maybe he gets a couple of checkdowns. I guess we're gonna watch that Keaton Mitchell.
I was about to say they could get Keaton Mitchell.
So
they need some juice in this backfield.
Yeah, Gus is a little slow.
Yeah, he is a boss at this point.
Yeah, the bus.
Let's move to the Bengals and the Cardinals. And guys, I'm going to talk about the most encouraging play I saw from this game. And Jamar Chase had 15 for 192 and 3. I'm going to tell you the most encouraging play I saw from this game. It was in the first quarter.
Is it from Trenton Irwin?
No, it was not from Trenton Irwin. Joe Burrow gets sacked for a loss of 15 yards. And to me, this was the most encouraging play from the entire game. Because he's moving to his left, he's moving to his right. He's jumping over defenders to try to avoid this sack. And I said to Paul, I don't care if he lost 15 yards on the sack. What I saw there was a guy who had some functional mobility. Yeah. And that was an omen of things to come because Joe Burrow finally looked like Joe Burrow. 36 of 46, 317, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Guys, obviously, we've been taking the cautious approach, thinking eventually, Tom, we're going to see Joe Burrow. But I had no problem being cautious with people saying, hey, look, we got to see it first. We saw it. He's back. And that doesn't mean there's going to be great games going forward, but the Bengals are 2-3. They have a game coming up against the Seahawks this week, which I think all of us would say is probably a middle of the road matchup. They've got an opportunity to get back to 3-3 at the bye in an eminently winnable division. And Joe Burrow having his best game of the year, Tom, could signal that the Bengals are a team we should be buying on right now.
Yeah, and you're completely right. It was the movement around in the pocket. There was even a couple different scrambles that he had, and we connected with the injury report the last couple of weeks. He's been off of it, so there must be some confidence that he's getting healthier. So, and there was Jamar Chase after last week's. Hey, throw me the damn ball. I'm always open, and he sure was this week. They even connected on a long, I think it was, I saw on Twitter or X that it was the longest air yards for a completion this season. Yep. The deep ball to Jamar Chase in that game. So got him going. And we'll see if we get T. Higgins back. They have a bye in week 7. So they could choose to rest him, get him 3 weeks of rest instead of the 1 week with the broken ribs. But this passing game is finally starting to come around. I could start to use them with some confidence. Seattle's defense was completely beatable until they went up against the Giants, so I would not be scared about that matchup. Yeah. And there could be some back and forth in that game. So I have the total here. Yeah, that one opened up at 46 points. So
that's good.
Yeah, that should be a good game here. So I think we saw that one game that we needed to see from Burrow where we can all right, we can put him back into our fantasy lineups. He's been killing us the first 4 weeks of the season, but I think we can put him back in and have a little bit of confidence. I don't think we're getting, just because he's moving around the pocket a little better, I don't think we're getting the, 3 points of fantasy production from rushing that we're used to getting from him in years past, but at least he can move around the pocket and get the ball to his best receivers.
On the Arizona side, Graham, the only really big piece of news here is James Conner, another knee injury. I mean, look, is there a bigger story of a better distillation of James Conner's career than an awesome 35-yard run that ends with a game-ending injury? The guy to pick up, Tom, and I know he's on the waiver wire, our boy Trey Camberling wrote him up in a Dynasty article this week. Not a name I was expecting to see. Nonetheless, Tom, the guy on the waiver wire, and Graham, is Amari DiMercato. He's a rookie out of Texas Christian. You might have recognized him. He was backfield mates with Kendrick Miller in TCU. He's kind of a stout guy. 10 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown. Also had 3 targets. Amari DiMercato is a guy, Graham, who we should be picking up.
Yeah. He's okay. He's a little stiff. Keontae Ingram missed this game, I think, with a neck injury. So
he's had a neck injury the last couple of weeks, and you have to wonder if this opened the door for a guy that they brought in. This is a new
Yeah.
coaching staff.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was going to say, this should be DeMarcado's backfield here. Even if they get Ingram back, they could sign somebody. Do we have anything on severity on Connor's injury?
I think Edwin was saying last night he thinks it's pretty minor. There's a 50. I think he put out on Twitter that it was a 50-50 chance that Connor's even back for this game. So
yeah, but it is James Conner.
It is James Conner. Hey, you know what though? This he's gonna miss a couple games every year. Just this will probably be his couple games where he misses, and as long as he's healthy for the stretch run, Connor's been such a good RB2, man.
Yeah, and I mean that's about it. I will say this: if Connor does miss, we're talking about these bye week flex guys. Rondale Moore gets carries, and he's got 5 targets. He's almost used as kind of a scat back, and pick him up and start him as like a bye week flex. I think you could probably do worse because he can pop off a play. It feels like the offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, Tom, at least has an idea on how to use Rondale Moore that Cliff Kingsbury never had.
Yeah, we're using him more creative ways. I mean, it was all just these like shuttle screen, all these little screen passes to Rondale Moore under Cliff Kingsbury. So I'm not feeling too great about him. Just a little disappointed in Josh Dobbs' performance in this one. He came back to earth a little bit and was feeding Michael Wilson and Zach Ertz. Couldn't get those guys going at all this week, and that turnover at the goal line was pretty brutal. That was kind of swung the whole game. They got that the 4th down stop at the goal line. I believe they had the lead at the time, and then he throws the pick 6, and that kind of flipped the entire game.
The Eagles and the Rams. The Eagles win this one 23-14, Tom. And I'll be honest, this is the first time I felt like the Eagles offense moved with the efficiency that it did a season ago. And I don't think it's a coincidence. If you guys saw my theories that I had been posting out, this is the first time Jalen Hurts looked explosive as a runner this year. And that is a huge factor for the Eagles to keep drives going. Nick Sirianni, Mr. Squeaky Wheel Greaser, Dallas Goedert has a monster game, and Devontae Smith gets 1 catch in this game. Guarantee you against the Jets, if they have Sauce Gardner following around A.J. Brown, little Sauce Gardner, they're going to get the ball to Devontae Smith next week. So just keep an eye out for that. But the Eagles, Tom, are the Eagles every week. You start Hurts, you start Swift, you start A.J., you start Goddard, you start Smith. One of those guys is going to have a bad game, and the rest of them are going to have good games.
Yeah, and it was good to see Goddard finally put one together here. It's been a rough start for him. All his efficiency metrics were basically cut in half from last year. They kind of turned him into just like a check down tight end through the first 4 weeks of the season, but they used him more down the field, and he looks explosive after the catch as well. So that they opened up that part of the offense, and hopefully this is a sign of things to come. And I think this offense as a whole is starting to turn a little bit of a corner. I think they took their lumps under Brian Johnson here first couple weeks, but I think he's starting to find his rhythm as a play caller as well. So
the red zone is the key here. Like they've still struggled in the red zone, and I think that might be for play callers. I've never called plays in the NFL, but I have to imagine that's kind of like the last thing that clicks because you're dealing with restricted space.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's always the thing they try to install. Most important Wednesday, Thursdays is the red zone. So we'll see that coming up. And Joe, to your point on Hurts, man, we're not going to get 15 carries every single week, but that was the base of this offense last year, especially in the run game, is Hurts on those zone reads with Miles Sanders. So them reinstalling that for him, man. I mean, he gets us 28 again. I mean, it feels like, Hurts is just a 30 burger waiting to happen every single week. And how about DeAndre Swift? This was something that we were
6 for 38, baby.
Yeah, man, that's the thing. I mean, Miles is only getting 1 or 2 targets per game. Swift's up here getting 6 in this spot. Holy shit, man. I mean, ceiling is massive for Swift.
So flipping over to the Rams side, obviously Cooper Kupp had 5 catches on the first drive and just 3 the rest of the way. The Eagles did a good job adjusting. They were playing off coverage on the first drive. That was not working. So they brought Bradley Roby in. He actually did a really good job. But look, this is what we wanted to see, right? Van Jefferson was benched. Stafford throws 37 passes. 23 of them are in the direction of Kupp and Nakua. Both wide receiver ones right now, Graham, in my opinion.
Done. Yep. Yep,
Lock it in.
absolutely done. And yeah, just move on. I mean, that's really kind of it. I mean, if we're going to get 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 targets for these two every single week, mixing a little Tutu Atwell, we're good. I mean,
they did not take
all
it
we need.
easy on
Stafford
Cup either. 3 snaps off.
No.
3 snaps off.
Sean McVay is like Sean McVay is a known liar, but he
Yes.
was right when he said that there's no restrictions.
No restrictions.
Who does LA have this week? Oh, the Cardinals. Oh
They
boy.
got the Cardinals.
Oh, that could be
After
a pretty
watching
juicy
what
game.
Jamar Chase did last week,
Yeah,
fire them both up. Yep.
He might be the Cooper might be the cover boy for the DFS breakdown next week. I have a venture to guess. I'm not crazy. I'm just Tutu Atwell. That's our little that's our little rejoin we play on
nice.
on game day.
I was not expecting that. That's so good.
That's my second favorite that we do after. Cause
real quick on this game,
chase. About that chase. Joe Burrow. That's my favorite one we do. Anyway, do you want another point on this game, Graham, while I was singing?
Yeah, I was just gonna say Cup's up, right? Like that's the way we want to write this.
So
he looked. I mean, did you guys see any kind of different? I mean, he looked like the same old Cup. I mean,
no, he looked
like Cooper Kupp to me.
Oh, by the way, Puka Nakuma's touchdown, he flat out beat James Bradbury. So yeah, he's good. Like this isn't just like
he's cooking dudes.
Yeah,
I've been saying this since week 1. Watch the games. He's cooking guys. Like he is getting wide.
No, like if this wasn't just like scheme, he's a zone beater. No, he beat James Bradbury one-on-one down the sideline. It was a great throw by Stafford, but still, and you just need to start him. I mean, he's obviously great. The Jets and the Broncos. I mean, guys, the Broncos are a fucking disaster. Russell Wilson is terrible. I mean, like he wasn't the guy who was it wasn't his fault, but like there's just like a little Eeyore-ness to this offense, right? It's like, oh, what will go wrong. He's running around, he just drops that ball at the end. These receivers aren't doing anything. Cortland Sutton stinks. Like I know he's been producing, but like he's not any good. I will say this though, they cannot take this Jaleel McLaughlin off the field. Tom, they cannot.
It's a problem. It's a problem overall because this is going to turn. This is already turning into a 3-man backfield. Javonte will probably be back next week. They pushed him to see if he'll play. So
73 receiving yards. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man. I had my 11th round P Ryan shares are getting a little run here. So whatever.
Yeah. But I'm worried about him going forward. Like Javonte, man. I don't know. Like he's going to be a guy we're going to be benching a lot moving forward here. I think they're going to get McLaughlin 6 to 8 touches a week. You can't take him out of the mix. And Samaje Perine kind of locked into these goal line not the goal line, the passing stuff. So I think Williams this is going to be another kind of lost season for him. It's really shaping up that way.
I know. I downgraded him, Tom, for that reason. Not just the injury, but McLaughlin's got more juice. Perine's got the passing down role, and then we don't know what the goal line role will be. So for Javonte, man, I don't know what we're left with this season.
Yeah, it's and the team's bad. So that's I mean, at the very least, they're going to have to score points because the defense is awful. But let's flip on over to the Jets side, and there's only one takeaway here. Zach Wilson. Yeah, I mean, hey, look, I made DFS lineups with him too. He's Zach Wilson, and he's playing the Eagles this coming week, so forget about it. But Breece Hall's awesome. This is going to be really interesting to see this week against the Eagles because the Eagles have the best run defense in football, and Breece Hall, Tom, he's a legitimate difference maker. Like he does not move the same way other running backs move.
Yeah, and Robert Salah. Hey, we're taking the reins off of them, and they actually did it. They fed him the ball. Still 52% snap share, but got the 22 carries in this game, which is what we wanted to see. We're tired of this 10 to 12 touches a week bull crap that they've been doing, and even got a little bit of work in the passing game here as well. So, but with a little bit of good there, Elijah Vera Tucker, that looked like it could be they listed as a calf injury, and they're gonna check it out here today. I think there's some concern that it might be a little bit more than that. They did just have an Achilles injury with Aaron Rodgers, so I think they're a little worried about that injury.
Yeah, they said no Achilles, but I don't think Vera Tucker's going to play this week.
Well, yeah, and it looked pretty serious. It looked like maybe an extended stay. on the sidelines is coming up for him. And this offensive line is already pretty thin. And as you said, Joe, we got the Eagles this week, so he's capable of breaking off a long run, as we saw, but I'm a little concerned about him coming up here in this matchup against the Eagles.
Kansas City and Minnesota. Kansas City wins 27-20. Another end of game disaster class for the Vikings clock management, and then of course the flags and well, we'll bottle our Chiefs conspiracy theories here, but obviously the big news, Graham, is Justin Jefferson. He could not finish this game. I think O'Connell was kind of non-committal at the end of the game on, we'll see how long it takes. It's very clear Justin Jefferson could well be missing some time. And here's some bad news. The Vikings don't have a bye until week 13. So if Justin Jefferson, there's no bye to get him healthy. It looks like it's possible, Graham, he misses week 6's game against who do they play? They play the Bears, which sucks to miss that game because he'd go for 200 in that one.
Yeah, he would go for 200. It's brutal. Our guy Edwin was saying 50-50. We don't really know more. We'll know more a little later today. I will say, I mean, Jordan Addison finally got oh my goodness, finally. Yeah, finally got the huge game. And then, if Jefferson doesn't play, I mean, I think this is kind of a part of the reason we liked Addison too, is like there's also like some contingent. Yeah, the contingent upside that, like, hey, if Jefferson does miss a few games here, like, man, he could lose his freaking mind. We could very well see it. I will say Addison was still around 75% of the snaps. He was still behind KJ Osborne, but if obviously this all goes out the window if Jefferson misses game.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Because like Brandon Powell, he seemingly just like kind of stepped into Justin Jefferson's role in that in the fourth quarter in that game. He led them in targets in the fourth quarter, and so we'll see what exactly happens. But I think you give the whole week for Jordan Addison to get ready for this game. You got to give him the full-time role over Brandon Powell. So off the waiver wire, we'll be talking about that tomorrow, but I think KJ Osborne has to be, kind of a handcuff if you're a Jefferson owner this week. Obviously you can't go pick up Jordan Addison off the waiver wire. So if you need a little backup plan, I think Osborne's going to be pretty active. As you said, it's against the Chicago Bears as well. So a matchup that he could take advantage of.
Yeah. On the Chiefs side,
real quick, I want to mention
the Madison.
Akers. Yeah, sorry, Joe. Yeah, real quick on the backfield here. Madison, 51% of snaps. He obviously scored this week, but him and Akers are splitting here. So I put Madison on the watch list, but honestly, Joe, we could probably downgrade him. I think at this point with Akers mixing in more, Vikings offense not looking great. Madison only getting 8-11 carries. That's just not going to get there for fantasy.
Yeah. On the Chiefs side, I mean, I don't know what else to say. Kelsey's dealing with the ankle injury, which clearly we have to watch. But right now, the only two players on this team who are reliable or the only three rather are Kelsey, Mahomes, and Pacheco. Although Rashee Rice, I thought if there was one receiver who could emerge this year, it kind of felt like it was going to be him.
Yeah, but it's still frustrating. 30% of the snap like this. It's he saw less work than he has been in the last couple of weeks. So, it was a beautiful matchup here. One that we used him. Three Bros, our fantasy team. We used Rice in a spot this week, but he just refuses. Andy just refuses to kind of let him take off here. It's a little frustrating, but it feels like it's eventually going to happen, but it just hasn't to this point. But he's the guy that if you have to own a wide receiver here with the Chiefs, it's Rashee Rice. It's no doubt for me right now.
All right, let's move on to the Sunday night game, which was an absolute freaking disaster. Dallas offense is bad. I don't know. Look, the 49ers have a great defense, Tom, but Dallas's offense is just not good. I mean, the offensive line isn't great. It's not the strength it was. I don't think Dak Prescott's playing particularly well. What's your autopsy of this Dallas offense, T-Bro?
Yeah, it's kind of broken. I mean, if they can't get CeeDee Lamb or Tony Pollard going, I mean, those two guys are carrying this offense. Dak Prescott, as you said, we don't even have to spend much oxygen on it. I think all the talk shows across America are going to do it for us this week. But I mean, he's as the kids say, he's certainly looking mid the last since the start of 2022. And
yeah, I mean,
this
it's
was
Lamb.
Just more proof of it.
I mean, it's Lamb and Pollard.
Yeah.
Like, who else do you feel good about here?
No one else, and then not the way with Dak's playing right now. You're not playing him, and he can't get Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup going right now. So Ferguson, it was going pretty well through the first last couple of weeks here, but just the total volume of this offense kind of killed him this week as well with just 24 attempts. So he couldn't even get there at tight end.
They play the Chargers.
I think it's the run game, man.
Yeah,
I think it's this run game. Like Dak needs a run game, and Pollard is. I mean, I'm a huge Tony Pollard fan. Obviously, they got blown the hell out, couldn't run the ball in this game, but they've struggled to run it, consistently. They'll have periods, they'll have drives where they run it well, and then it just goes away. It's very concerning though that they can't get CeeDee Lamb going, especially in this game where they trail the whole way throughout. Only 5 targets, 449.
Yeah, he just had that one long reception.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm writing up.
Yeah. Oh, what a disaster.
Yeah, I'm writing up this game. I'm writing up Dak as a downgrade. I mean, we can't use him in fantasy in 1 QB leagues anyway, but like, it's really like, man, we could be looking at some skill regression here. Joe, you and I were texting last night. I mean, ever since Dak stopped running, Dak was a kind of I won't say mobile, hyper mobile quarterback, and he could move,
but it kind of goes back to like the Burrows. Like at least the threat was there. He could manipulate the pot,
exactly.
and he just it's
just
not like
there anymore.
You don't like think of Burrow as a running quarterback, but that's like what Dak could do. He could just move around the pocket and make more play. Like he's stationary now. I see those two situations kind of similar here. Hopefully Burrow is getting his mobility back here though.
On the 49ers side, I mean, I don't know what else to say. You kind of just have to play the guys every week. This was Kittle week, and all 3 of his catches go for touchdowns. And at some point, I mean, look, this isn't where you drafted him. Brock Purdy's twice the fantasy quarterback Dak Prescott is right now. I mean, Dak Prescott doesn't run.
A lot of quarterbacks, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Dak Prescott doesn't run. So, like, what's separating them right now? Like, Purdy's in a better offense,
and he's a better quarterback right now.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not a hot take. Purdy's playing extremely well.
Yeah, the way he processes and just throws over the middle, it's incredible for a guy his age and where he was drafted. It's everything I wish my Kenny Pickett was. I mean, I feel like they have very similar skill sets, and he just cannot process and throw over the middle like Brock Purdy. It's not even close. So they got a gem. They just an absolute steal here. Now we're seeing why they moved on from Trey Lance and let Jimmy Garoppolo walk. It's not even close.
So that'll do it for this edition of the Market Report podcast. Somebody's using some sort of circular saw, I think, in Graham's apartment.
What the
long crew. Sorry, guys.
That's Moyer. He's vacuuming in the house. No.
Oh yeah.
No
Let me tell you something. As somebody who used to live in an apartment complex, the lawn crew would only come when you are recording. That is a fact. It's insane. But sorry about that, guys. At the end of the podcast, we'll talk about Tom and I will be with you on Tuesday morning to talk waiver wire. We'll see if there's any huge names to put out there, obviously with the bye weeks, but I'm sure we hit on a lot of them today. Check out the Market Report podcast here at Fantasy Point. Well, you already did, but check out the article at fantasypoints.com. Use code Gurific25 to get an additional 25% off of what is already 25% off for the 2023 season. Thanks everybody for listening to the Market Report podcast. For Graham and Tom, I'm Joe. See you at fantasypoints.com, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.